Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art. And today I wanted to review a lovely pattern that I've been able to try twice over, and that is New Look N667. So New Look N667 caught my eye for a number of reasons. For a couple of years, I'd been looking for a pattern that was going to allow me to test out the French dart. I don't really find that I have seen too many dress patterns currently in present day that have French darts, and if you know of any others, link them down below for sure. But I think it's a silhouette and a design feature that is so sleek and elegant and really does elevate a look. At least that's what it felt like for me. I like the dress that they have on the cover to kind of showcase this pattern. It also comes with a self-covered belt option. It has fisheye darts in the back as well to add to that shaping, and I just think it's really cool. It has a very awesome neckline that's a really straight cut in the front and goes a bit higher in the back of the neck there. But for the fabric suggestions, they suggest any cotton types as well as crepe back satins, garbadines, as well as jacquards, linen types, piqués, poplin, sateen, tweed, and double knits and pontes. So they definitely give you a lot of different options. It does have two versions, one that is just around the knee and another one that is a bit longer, maybe I would say midi length. And one of them has a sleeve option or sleeveless option, as well as the optional belt. So the first time I made this dress, I actually made the yellow dress that I'm wearing here, which is my wearable toile. I went ahead and cut out a size 12 in the bodice and then graded out to a size 16 and then graded out even further to a size 20 at the bottom. In looking back at it, I do think that I could have just graded out for the hip and then go straight down from the hip point. I think that might be better, but it's all about making sure that the curve that was on the pattern was smooth and rounded. So here is the back piece of this garment, just so you can kind of see. So this is the size 12. Here's the fisheye dart in the center, and then I graded out gradually from the waistline and then graded out to about a size 16. Here is the hip, and then continued to grade out just so that line would not sort of be too sharp. And then by the time it gets to the bottom here of the actual pattern piece, we're at the size 20, which is the largest pattern size in this set. I also used the sleeve pattern piece and hacked it quite significantly to do this melon sleeve that I'd been wanting to test out for quite some time. There is a garment that I pinned many moons ago that I have really loved looking at that sleeve, and I figured, why not give it a try? I had enough of this fabric, which I picked up at G Street Fabrics, to actually make use of it. Because the rest of the silhouette is pretty streamlined and straight up and down, it did leave me with a bit more fabric that I could play with, so I wanted to make sure I could use everything, and doing the melon sleeve seemed to be the right call on this make. I talk a bit more about the making of this dress in a previous Friday sews, which I'll actually link up in the cards just so you have it, because I don't want to spend the whole video talking just about the wearable toile, but you can hear more about that in the Friday sews. There is a fly that's just making its way around. If it's distracting you, I apologize. I promise it's distracting me more. So I'm gonna do my best to focus. All right, so let's get to talking about the actual final garment here. I was preparing for one of my good friends' wedding. We went to the wedding at the start of September up in Philadelphia, and I wanted to make a lovely dress to wear. I had this beautiful red fabric that I thrifted many years ago, as well as this blue very vivid blue fabric that I had also thrifted many years ago. I wanted to combine them because if you look up close at this fabric, you'll see that there are some motifs in here that really echo that blue color, and I wanted to be able to sort of pull that out. So I figured that this would be a really lovely silhouette because of how kind of plain it is and how you can get a really beautiful fit with that French dart and the fisheye darts in the back. I thought that this would be a really cool one to give another try. I made the bodice, and I actually traced the bodice again because I knew that I wanted to do a high-low effect that you can see here in the front. So you'll see from the back that it sort of dips down in the back beyond the zipper mark. That was something that was really important to me. I did not want to have to fiddle or mess up the zipper placement. And it just kind of curves along the side edge. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. So I took a lot of risks with this make, and I just wanted to talk through some of the design features that I included in here and the why behind it. So I'll pop up an inspiration image. I saw this dress on Pinterest as well, and it is by the lovely Zimmerman. I love them a lot. And I actually saw dresses similar to this when I went to their showroom down in Miami. So they had this design where they actually used what I would call bias tape. Some of it was made out of the sort of self fabric, but you can kind of see the different detailings. So I drew inspiration from that, and trust me, what I ended up sketching out, this looks nothing like that. But it did give me at least a baseline of ideas to kind of draw from. I really have struggled with how I want to walk you through the making of this and what I want this video to entail. But let's talk about some of the positives. First of all, I got to revisit a pattern that I truly do think does not get enough shine. This new Look N667 is beautiful. I think the design lines are quite incredible. And if you're someone who wants something that's elevated, a bit sleek, streamlined, I think that this is a pattern that I would honestly recommend others giving a try. But additionally, I was able to dive into my stash of notions, and I actually was able to use some that I've been wanting to utilize for a long time, but never had either the opportunity or took the time to use. One of the things that I've wanted to use for a long time is my bias tape maker. I've had this kit. I bought it off of Amazon some time ago and just never would take the time to actually make continuous bias binding. But knowing that I wanted to try this new design, I definitely went right into my stash, pulled out my kit, and got to work. I used the orange, the 9mm tip for the bias tape maker. I will be able to use the rest of this bias tape hopefully in future makes as decoration, as trim, and things like that. It is quite thin again, so I don't think it would be the best to actually bind edges, but we shall see. It was really fun to make though, and now I'm not as nervous to make bias binding, and it actually didn't take as long as maybe I was thinking. I used a continuous bias binding method, so I will link a tutorial to one of those down below. In addition to the bias binding maker, I also use my Dritz tracing kit, and this I had picked up at the thrift store as well, and it's awesome. It basically has these sheets that are colored. It has tracing paper on it. And what's incredible about it is that you are actually able to lay this flat on the fabric and actually use the tracing wheel that comes with the kit to make the impression on whatever it is that you want to transfer onto your fabric. I was able to practice top stitching. So top stitching is not something that I've done too often. I equate that to like working with the denim often, or like flat felled seaming, that sort of thing. And I haven't actually done too much of that. So for this, in order to actually add on this bias binding here on the front, I actually top stitched all of these down. I was able to find some thread that was a great color match, and that turned out quite well. So I'm really proud of that. I like that the design is quite symmetrical. I did fully line the bodice of this as well. Instead of going for the facing around the neck, I did the same to the dress that I'm wearing here. But for the wedding guest dress, I actually just lined the actual bodice. And that was super helpful because in the actual garment on the inside, because of all of that detailing, there was a lot of, you know, seams and thread lines and all of that going throughout. So I felt that having that lining just cover it up and make it look super crisp and nice on the inside was worthwhile. I have not attached it to the bottom because I do feel that this dress is not going to stay as it is. I want to also address the skirt of this. A method that I've used in the past is that I actually double the skirt with another fabric, and I cut that sort of lining bit of it longer than the main fabric, which then when you sew them together will give you sort of like this edge, this additional bit of the extra fabric on the front, right? So it adds length, but it also adds structure. This skirt did not need additional structure at all. And I think in adding this additional fabric, this is one of the ways that this dress went so wrong. And yeah, I think one, it makes it look, it cheapens the look of it to me when I see it full length. I don't like that you have this sort of border at the bottom. I think it definitely could have done without it. The additional structure that it actually added to the skirt makes it less fluid. And with the amount of gathering that is happening here, that is a lot of extra fabric in bulk. Also, where the high-low sort of portion of this dress hits me is right at my hip, which is the widest part on my body. And then having that extra volume right there was not the look at all. So lots of things that kind of I don't like about how I actually ended up finishing the dress. I made this wearable toile. I had not tested out the sort of high-low feature and what that would do sort of resting at my hip to have those extra gathers there. Like, that's a really significant change to make in a final garment, right? So while I had tested out, like, can you make a French dart? And the answer was yes. You know, does the fisheye dart placement kind of work? And of course, discovering like that bunching and pooling in the center back. Those are all things that I then changed in the final dress. But to make such a drastic change after toiling it without like a secondary toile, you know, some mishaps may be bound to happen there. So it was just a note to self. That doesn't mean that I think moving forward, when I'm trying new things, will I make multiple toiles of things? I don't know. They definitely would need to be wearable toiles to make them worth my while, but I couldn't be mad at anyone when things didn't work out here. I was like, yeah, you kind of changed a lot there. For the sleeves, in the end, I ended up going with one of my favorite sleeve patterns, which is from Simplicity S8875. I elongated it by about 2 inches. I probably didn't need to do that either. It has still not been cuffed or elasticated, so I just sort of pulled the basting stitches that I put here, the gathering stitches, and pull them in tight for the B-roll footage. But I have yet to decide what I want to do with the sleeve. My heart of hearts, I would have loved for it to have like a poofy sleeve ending in a cuff. I don't know if I feel like putting a cuff in it, so I might just turn up the bottom hem there and just put elastic in it and call it a day. That's probably what's gonna happen. I was really excited to make this dress, even though it didn't turn out the way that I wanted, because I used fabric from my stash that I'd become quite precious about. And I'm so excited that I went for it. I think the actual fabric is gorgeous. And actually, in hindsight, if I had just made the dress as I did the wearable toile, it probably would have been quite gorgeous, and it didn't need to be so much more. Or I could have even included this design without the additional portion of this gathered bottom here, you know, but you live and you learn and you try new things, so it's all good. Ultimately, when I put on the final dress, it looked like I was going to a Bridgerton experience. It looked like I was trying to do like a reenactment of something in the olden days. And that's what I felt. That's what I felt. I was like, huh. What happened there? So it did not meet expectations. So that's the dress. I wanted you all to see it in all of its glory. One day, maybe you might see this reworked, refashioned in some way. Who knows? But for right now, it was a fail that I learned so much from, and I'm really excited that I took the leap and actually went after it and tried it. And it didn't work for a number of different reasons, but boy, did it teach me so much. So it was definitely worth it. If you have used New Look N667, please let us know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear about others' experience with this pattern, or if you've used any other pattern that has French darts. Like, how was that experience? How would you compare that to the typical waist and bust darts? I think that the fit that you get on it is so cool. It kind of, the way that it drapes on the body almost feels reminiscent of something that's more bias cut, and maybe it's because of where the French dart is. It sort of does sort of lay on the bias a little bit in those areas, but I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful look. Of course, I have to do a bit of tweaking to it, as I usually do, just trying to make sure that it fits from the bust to the hip and further down, but well worth it. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know how you think the final dress turned out. How do you bounce back from sewing fails? And how do you make sure that you are appreciating and celebrating those learning moments along the way? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more. And hopefully there will be more wins. This definitely knocked me out after I made that. But I cannot wait to hear from you down below. Stay creative, my friends. Bye-bye.